So,
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Board of Education meeting for Rowe Community College, the May 2025 meeting to order. And I see Pat Fahey is on Zoom. The rest of us are here, so we have a quorum. So I'd like to turn this over to you, Randy. We have awards and recognitions.
yeah, I'm going to pick a creative approach today, and in front of you, you should have a sticker with a key, and it says "Opportunity Starts Here." And this is created out of a recognition that we are extremely proud of as a college. And what happened was the Carnegie Foundation, who's classified colleges, if you went to a baccalaureate college or a doctoral college or that. So for 50 years, they've classified colleges. They realized that their process for doing so was pretty stale. They need to update them. Community colleges award baccalaureates and a lot of other things. So a component of their reclassification said, we need to be able to in some way identify the performance of institutions as part of this classification. And what they did was they took two key components, opportunity and earnings essentially, and kind of on a matrix. And they created a classification called opportunity college or university. And in order to receive this distinction or this honor, the respective institution needed to be as or more representative than its community with its population. So you might think of like small liberal arts schools, maybe in the Northeast. They aren't much like their community, but they produce a lot of high earners who go back to liberal areas. So it's really like, are you as reflective as your community? That's where that comes in. And then the earnings is, are your former students earning 25% greater than the median in your region? And so if you were more equal or more representative than your community and your earnings were at least 25% greater than the median for your region, you were identified as an opportunity college. And there were about 50 community colleges in the country out of 1,200 or so less than 5% of community colleges, and only one public institution in Oregon, and that is Rowe Community. So we are congratulating the college, because to get to this level of effort and outcome, it's truly a collective effort. It's the people who are out recruiting students to our school. It's the people who are making sure the processes at our college work and are reliable. It's the instructors who are teaching. So it really is reflective of the college's commitment to these things that are also recognized. So it's nice to get this level of distinction. So you will, over the coming months, they do their classification on a 3-year cycle. So we will be the inaugural. There were 3 institutions in Oregon, actually, the other 2 were private. So we will be the inaugural public institution in Oregon and only community college to have this, and they can't take that from us. And for 3 years, we will be alone. But it also gives us a bar to pursue. And so what I love about it is it says we are serving our community as they come to us, and for those who come, it's a good investment. It's a good investment of their time, their energy, their effort, their money, as it leads to a better job and a better life. And so I could not be prouder of our college for this distinction. And so more to come about opportunities starting at RCC.
Wonderful. Congratulations to everyone at the college. And I'm really pleased to hear that. There will be more news about this in the coming weeks, potentially. And it's really lovely that we have 3 years to brag about it. So to the extent that we put it in print material and we talk about it, that's a wonderful acknowledgement of all the hard work of our staff, our students, and the entire team. All right, so we will, is there any public comment? No public comment this evening. All right, so moving along to college reports, we'll go to student government. And I see that Christian is on Zoom. So hello, Christian.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm going to get started if that's all right.
Yes, please.
Perfect. We got a good report today. Starting with WIG number 1, equitable access. We have the Student Basic Needs Coalition. It's an ongoing effort. ASG is part of a growing coalition of statewide student leaders from Oregon's public colleges and universities working together to support student basic needs funding. They've been holding meetings, information resource sharing events, and they promoted the Student Basic Needs Rally in Salem on May 8th. The recent revenue forecast caused quite a bit of concerns for the efforts of the coalition, but student leaders are hopeful that the Basic Needs and Workforce Stabilization Act will pass into the current biennium's budget. Excuse me. Currently, the group is working on ways to support Oregon students beyond this legislative session and to strategically approach the next long session in 2027. Moving into WIG number 2, student success. We had Pizza with the President, always a great event. Students seemed happy to engage with Dr. Weber, though we mostly saw a lot of the usual faces attending the events. Club members from the Gamers Guild and students from Manny Pacheco's class attended alongside students coming and going. In total, we counted around 20 students. Next, we had the May the 4th Be With You tabling, which is funny because we had it on the 6th and 7th on the 3 campuses. ASG worked with marketing to design a Star Wars themed Jedi Aussie sticker, which was super cool. We gave them out at the actual tabling events. On the one I held at Riverside, it was really popular. The next one, we had Spring Clubs Fairs, which was on Redwood campus the 22nd of April and the 23rd of April on Riverside. They went very well. The Redwood campus saw 6 clubs attending: the Gamers Guild, Gaming Club, Alpha Zeta Pi, Student Veterans Organization, Rainbow Club, and Aussie's Cupboard. The cafeteria had made free pizza to hand out, and it was super popular. And we also had the WCC RCC clothing sale, which got a lot of engagement for both events. For Riverside, we had less clubs present, only 3, but a high level of student engagement with the ASG officers present. We provided information on our open positions, handed out sandwiches, and presented some information about support services available for students. Next up, we had the Gamers Guild Movie Night, which was the 17th of April on Redwood campus. We watched the Dungeons & Dragons movie. We had theater candy, soda, other drinks, and a popcorn machine that I believe we have in office for students. We got a lot of engagement. About 25 students signed in for the event, and I counted over 30 students altogether. For my last leg of the report, we have our officer elections and appointments, which is still ongoing. Unfortunately, this term, no one applied for the actual elections event, but we have been continuing to push engagement and recruitment, and we've had a good number of applications come in for appointed positions as well as the elected ones. We've been discussing potential regions. I think what I'm seeing the most is just other spring term events, graduation incoming, summer break incoming, normal financial strain and economic stuff, and even kind of like the current title of the organization. But we're still finding quite a bit of success. We had, like I said, quite a few applications come in. I think we're at 4, so we should see a new team of about 5 to 6. And that's all I've got.
Well, thank you, Christian, and kudos to you for providing a very detailed written report. It's nice to read, and also that there were themes around equitable access and student success in some of the weeks. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
All right, moving along to Faculty Association. I don't see Mary online. Faculty Senate report. I don't see the representatives there. And then we'll move on to Classified Association. I don't see anyone from that organization on Zoom either. So we'll then move on to board reports. So executive committee met last week. So give a report about what we talked about.
We really reviewed a lot of work around board policies and the hard work that Michelle's putting into making that more digestible for us to see the changes and work through those changes. Talked a little bit about the president's contract and about a potential new process for our board nominating committee. I think we'll talk a little bit about that later. And then kind of reviewed budgeting positions, some of the new director positions that might be coming up, and some information about some programs. So, and then making sure we have no surprises. That's our operating agreement. So it went really well.
Well said. All right, we will then move on to board outreach committee, and I see all three of you. Pat is, the camera is on, so we have Pat, Indra, and Jonathan. So I'll turn it over to you three. Pat, would you like to go first?
Well, I think I'm gonna keep up with Vanessa. I don't have any, it's no surprise because we haven't done anything. So I apologize for that. And I'll let everybody else carry on after that.
Anything to add?
RVCOG hasn't met in May yet, so
Oh, they did not meet. They
Not
met
yet.
In March.
coming up.
That's his name.
The May meeting
Oh,
hasn't happened yet.
it has not happened.
So next time.
When we started that, I think there was a March meeting that I knew I was thrilled that. And did that happen?
Yes, the April meeting got thrown on the budget committee.
Excellent. And I happen to.
Please.
And I
Oh,
happen,
sorry, I was laughing near you.
I happen to see
Vanessa.
a Rogue Valley Council of Governments truck, I think, or car on the freeway. They may be delivering food potentially, I think I read.
Different, yeah.
A real difficult situation for them. They do a lot of really good work out of a kitchen that they have an agreement with Access on to deliver meals in both Josephine and Jackson counties. And
Okay.
Access has given a notice that they may need that kitchen moving forward. So RV Cog's trying to scramble to figure out how they might be able to continue those services in a different way.
Gotcha. All right. Okay, thank you. OCCA, OSBA liaison, that's Pat and Jonathan.
Well, last Friday was the OCCA board meeting. And it followed on the President's Council that Radio will talk about. It was held in Chemeketa Community College, beautiful downtown Salem, and there was quite a bit on the agenda. As you can imagine, the 13th was when the state budget forecast came out. And disappointing is probably the best adjective I can give to it. And I have a lot of sympathy for the state economists trying to determine what the revenue forecast is going to be like when you don't know if tariffs are going to be in place or tariffs not going to be in place. And there's not a lot of room for error. So the short end is this: between the initial budget forecast in January and the one on the 13th, the budget fell by $2.7 billion or $1 trillion. $1 trillion, $1 billion, must be $1 billion. It was 10%. It was a huge number, and it's going to affect everybody in the state, whether you're a K-12, you're a university student, state police, what have you. So I was surprised, to be honest, at how well upbeat the rest of the presidents and other board members were there. They were kept a step off her lip, and Randy may be able to talk about that some more. There was other business besides this discussion of the budget. We had the executive session where we talked about a performance evaluation of the executive director, Abby Lee. When we came out of executive session, it was a positive recommendation. She's done a good job. And those of you who've met her, I think she's an outstanding executive director. A couple of other just housekeeping things. They elected the board members for, not the board members, but the slate of officers for the upcoming year, next year and the following year. And next year's starting 2025, 2026, the president is Andrew Spear. The secretary is Jessica Howard, who's the president of Chemeketa. The treasurer is Rachel I can never get her name right. Pockmarant, president of Umpqua. At large is Kristen Adams, board member from Lynn Benton. Susan Anderson, a board member from Southwest Community over in Coos Bay, and the past president, of course, is Austin Fogarty, and they select me to be the vice president coming in next year. So it was a full day. There a lot of issues were discussed. A lot of things were discussed about how do we strengthen make sure that the board members of the community college, all 109 of them, understand the value of the institution brings. And it was a very good meeting. I enjoyed it. I went predominantly, I could have attended by Zoom, but I thought it was important to be there in person, and it was. You're just so much more effective. So Randy, do you have anything else to share on that?
Oh, I'll probably reflect on a couple of thoughts from there in my president's report, but
Okay,
I've pretty good a job of it.
that's all, Gary. And if you folks would excuse me, I'm feeling a little under the weather. I think I'm gonna step away, if that's okay. So I'll bid
Completely
you
okay.
good folks a good night and.
All right,
I'll
and
go
take
there.
care and
Feel better.
feel better.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, anything else to add, Jonathan? Anything to add to?
Legislative committee met today and the economic forecast was our topic, so that covered it.
Okay. All right, we will now move on to section 7, which is college foundation board liaison. Thank you. And we have Indra and Maria.
We did not attend the meeting, so good thing Cass is here, right? Struggled traveling.
To hear more
All
about it.
right, we will hear that from an update coming soon. Sure. Yes, excellent. Okay. All right, now we're in section 7, college updates, and we have the president's report.
Yeah, so in your materials, you received a copy of the slides from my all college presentation. I guess it would have been a week ago Friday. And we had an opportunity to spend the day in professional development updating, but in the presentation, there was trying to cover quite a bit of material. I think the things I would like to highlight from it for discussion tonight, when we look at student outcomes and student progress, you know, and initially a couple of years ago, what we said is we want to focus on really specific things like student course completion. Are they finishing courses and term to term retention? Like, are they coming back the next term? And if you look at the numbers on our term to term retention from fall to winter, they're up to 75%, which is really, really good. I mean, we're hitting some pretty impressive there. It has outperformed previous year's data, pre-pandemic, other stuff, and then our fall to fall retention rate is also increasing. So, you know, not only is you know, we talk a lot about these enrollment increases, and these enrollment increases occur because we're doing a lot more outreach to get more students to come. But I used to say, as an old admissions director, the easiest students to recruit are the ones we already have. And we're doing a good job demonstrating that, you know, when they come here, the value and that choice to stay is powerful. So I like seeing that and students voting with their choice to come back as that value prop. Another thing that's highlighted in some of the numbers there is how the trajectory that's moving in our high school partnerships. And we take a lot of pride in that. In our high school partnership, if you just look at the numbers, it looks like, well, we're getting back to numbers or returning to numbers similar that maybe we had years ago. But I'll tell you, those numbers are quite a bit different. Historically, what you would have seen are almost purely traditional, what we call dual credit. They're taking the general ed core credit that they would get for traditional baccalaureate pursuit of a program. And those are needed credits. They help students graduate on time or early or not prolong a degree. So a lot of value in getting those gen ed credits. But additionally, the last couple of years, a lot of our focus has also been on workforce training. So for the students who want to enter workforce right out of high school, they're doing so with a greater level of readiness. The other thing it does is it introduces them to the programs that we have. So when they graduate, they say, oh, I can just continue this program by going to RCC. And so our folks are out there spending a lot of time on those relationships with our K-12 partners And that is reflected in that positive momentum that we're taking on. I think the last thing I might cover from that report is there's an introduction to what is being branded as kind of the roadway, and the roadway is, it's an interesting name for it, because we don't want people to go rogue. What we're doing is we're calling, basically, this is in spirit with like our system activities. We want to look at systems and strategies that we have, but we may be practicing in lots of different ways at our college. So maybe we're using Microsoft Outlook in different ways. Maybe we're planning meetings in calendar a completely different way, and communicating and storing meeting files in Teams a different way. So we're trying to create some institutional standards, not that there's a right or a wrong way, but that there's a consistent way, and try to improve efficiencies and decrease frustration. Like, oh my gosh, I'm on 8 committees. Where does this committee store these documents, or how do I find that? And so this charge was given to our executive assistants, so Rochelle and the VP's assistants, and said, if you can help spearhead this effort, I think we're all trainable. Like, you guys who are really the owners of a lot of, or the practitioners of a lot of these efforts, we can probably all fall in line. So they've been working with the other assistants from across the college to come up with what they do, how they do it. And it's a really neat collaborative way that I think is going to, as they progress their work. And the thing I'm really proud of that they're doing with it too is, again, this is letting those front level people help influence the direction versus top down. It's practitioners kind of up. But what it is doing is empowering them in a way that I think that they will own it and champion. There's a lot of trainings that they do, so it's not, okay, here's a new thing, now you have to use it. It's like, okay, let's have workshops. They had a dedicated session and the in-service around it. So a lot of support, not just coming with expectations. On the OCCA, OPC side, Pat highlighted a couple of things that were going on. And what I'll point out is that in the governor's recommended budget, CCSF is recommended at 870 million, which is really like 854.4 million that goes through the formula. And so that's kind of that's the number we built our budget off of. All along, OCCA has been advocating with support from the colleges for a budget at 920 million for the next biennium, with specific rationale why 854 doesn't really show our current service level. If you think back just a biennium ago, the last revenue forecast that came in just prior to adoption came in very favorable compared to previous, and as a result, we saw numbers that were the legislatively approved budget was higher than the governor's recommended budget. So that was, I'm not gonna call it a windfall, because we would have always taken more, but it was an appreciated increase at the last minute. Pat referenced the decrease and revenue projection this time compared to the last projection, and the mood changed quite a bit. And the mood changed in a way to say, we all try to at least just get the governor's recommended budget. So we're looking kind of pretty close to that as a ceiling versus that as a floor. And so like what will happen now is that last revenue forecast came out. The way the process works, a lot of bills are sent to Ways and Means, and then they price them out and figure out what it'll cost. But we'll start seeing things come out of Ways and Means, and we'll start to see in the next couple of weeks what their projected budget will be. We don't anticipate a significant increase. We hope for not a significant decrease. I don't believe there'd be a significant decrease from the governor's recommended, but there's a potential for a slight. The reason I share that is to say, earlier this afternoon, we adopted a recommendation for next year's budget to come to this board. I don't think those numbers changing in any way should influence next year's budget. I think if we look and we're really surprised by it because it's a biennium, we'll have the opportunity to talk about in year 2, what does this mean for the college and planning forward. So if you're looking at that and going, how might that impact our budget? I think the planning we've done, the position we put ourselves in college, I think we should feel confident with moving forward with this budget as we've developed it. That was one of the advantages of kind of going with that zero base, is we know what we're committing to, and it's not everybody just take a 6% cut. It would be quite a bit different work. So hopefully there's some assurance there. In OPC, so one of the things that's changing, and we talked about on the President's Council, OPC, is that we've been advocating over the year to get consistency around instructor qualifications for courses. So there's an ORS that essentially says, if you're teaching a course for a university versus a college, the standards to teach it have been higher for college, even though it's the same course with the same course outcomes. It didn't make sense. So we're telling our dual credit partners, your instructor's not qualified to teach this course for us. And then, for example, SOU can come in and say, oh, but they're qualified to teach for us. It's really confusing. It's the same instructor teaching the same course with the same course outcomes, but we look more restrictive. We are more restrictive absent a couple other practices. So what is moving forward is consistency around. So if you, the same qualification expectations exist for both colleges and universities. So that's going to help us provide more opportunity to students and do a lot less explaining to high schools, things that don't really make very good sense. So we considered that a win. The other topic that is going to carry a lot of weight and has it's going to create conflict. I can't even sugarcoat this. It's going to create conflict between the colleges and universities as we are pushing aggressively to call in the question on transfer and the impact of a lack of focus on transfer for our students. And there are just too many stories of students who are negatively impacted by Oregon neglecting this issue for a lot of years. A lot of states have addressed it. They found ways to do it. You start to look at the students and the populations that are impacted most negatively by this, and it's not very defensible. And so there are things and ways we can approach this, and so we are preparing ourselves to ask for legislative action if we have to, but we're not getting there on our own. And every year we don't get there on our own, more and more students are impacted by lost credits, lost momentum, changing their majors, their financial aid eligibility is impacted. And so we're at the point where, you know, enough is enough. We need to do this on behalf of students. So you'll hear more on this. One of the things that we take a lot of pride in is we have a very strong relationship with our closest transfer partner, SOU. And that will continue to be maintained. We work on that. We have transfer efforts that where we go down, they invite us down, our departments sit together and work on that. So I don't see a significant change with efforts with them. But for our students who go up to Portland State or Oregon State or U of O, the risk of lost credits or momentum is something that we need to advocate for. So that's a lot of what we're looking at there. And well, there's a whole lot more I can share there. You have a lot of written stuff in the report. So I will stop there unless there are questions.
All right, thank you, Randy. Senior leadership team, who'd like to go first?
Yes, I'll be providing the senior leadership team report this evening. We too wanted to highlight in service. It was a wonderful event. We've received so far about 14% of attendees have filled out the survey to give us feedback, and just wanted to recognize the work from across the college that went into that. From the Professional Development Council, who took a very intentional approach to try to design a great day for us all, to Kara Lumpkin and those who were on the planning team that actually made it all come together. There were some great changes that, you know, are highlighted in the report. Things like we've retired the retiree clocks and instead are partnering with students and with faculty to redesign something that we think is really meaningful, created by students for Rogue, to honor and recognize our retirees. We had many sessions. I believe the report said 26. There may have been more or less final on that day, but that represents a collective effort from faculty, staff, and administrators, as well as external experts who we were able to bring in and provide professional development. And so on behalf of senior leadership team or the VPs rather, I just want to express my appreciation to everyone who was a part of that day. I also would like to recognize Randy's all college address. I'm hearing from those 14% of respondents that there's an overwhelmingly positive feedback on that session. And so I think people really appreciate the efforts that Randy undertook to provide timely information and updates and bring people into the conversation of where we're headed. And so, well, thank you to everyone. With that, we know that there is a ton of great work that's highlighted within the report. And so we welcome any questions you might have for any of us.
All right, over to board members. Any questions from the board? Very comprehensive, very thorough. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right. Then moving to institute, because we're not going to have individual. All right, want to make sure I'm being sensitive. To institutional effectiveness, Esau.
I do not have an update today, Mr. Chairman, but next month I look forward to sharing more with you about mission fulfillment.
Excellent. Thank you, Esau. We look forward to that. And we have Foundation Cass.
Thank you. So I just wanted to report that after, let's see, last month, a big dip of about $2 million in realized loss, we're back up. I did want to bring attention to the statement of activity that I shared with you. The unrealized loss that we had was just, it's being reconciled. That was in April. And so Lindsay is going to actually get that to Rochelle. Sorry, Rochelle, so that she can put that in your packet. So as of today, we have 19,508,000 plus in endowed funds in our Ferguson Wellman account. We're also doing a very thorough review of all of our scholarships and making sure that we're complying with state and federal guidelines. I'm getting a lot of the things that have happened in the federal government. And so we will be reaching back as we need to, as we identify scholarships and working with individual donors and reaching out and letting them know that we'll work with them in the topic intention for their donated funds, but that we also need to comply with state and federal. Scholarship Universe is fully up and running, and it has made the application process so much easier for our students. And we've seen a huge uptick in the amount of students that have already applied for scholarships. And Fane has been working with Nicole's group and really getting out there, doing the outreach, reaching out to schools and using printed flyers. And so we're really happy with the return so far on the amount of folks who've applied for scholarships. We also are working on our foundation budget, and we have voted in a new board member, Dennis Slattery, who is an accounting professor at Southern Oregon University. He's a past city council person in Ashland, and he's very good at bringing in friends. And so we're excited to have Dennis. He'll be joining us in our June board meeting. We've also had Kingsley Kelly and Delia Warner. They'll be moving off the board. Let's see. We're working on lots of new marketing materials. Our development director position is closing tomorrow. And so fingers crossed that we're going to get a magic unicorn. And then we'll be awarding scholarships in August. I think that's about it. Do you have any questions?
No, I like that you're reaching out to students who don't complete, sort of like one gets from AI when they know you visited a website, which is really nice to remind them, hey, don't meet the deadline. So was really nice.
It's also going to be really wonderful to utilize Scholarship Universe, which is our platform that we utilize in the foundation, along with PowerFades, which is what financial aid uses. And so that information will make it much easier also to work with financial aid and scholarships, and so make it more efficient.
All right, any questions for Cass? All right, sending you good wishes for your closing date tomorrow on your development director.
Thank you.
We'll now move to section 8, board action and for information items. So the first topic is an information item, which is the monthly financial data report. Lisa?
I do not have anything exciting to talk about in our financials, which gives me great comfort. I did, when we were reviewing them, was searching for something. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The one thing I will note is our auditors are starting up the audit again for this current fiscal year. So they will start testing next month before we close on some things.
Questions for Lisa? I recall, and maybe I missed it, but I thought that, did we project property taxes a little bit lower than they came in revenue? Was that something
That is tuition and fees. That's a good catch. That's the only thing I was gonna.
I was thinking that's something that looks normally we talk about.
So between now and the end of the year, there are adjustments that take place. So we're always, students have the ability to, what is the term? Appeal, thank you. Appeal. And when they do that, we look at different mechanisms, and typically they write off their tuition and fees. And that can be for any year, and we only go back so many years. So we are anticipating that our tuition revenue and fees will go down a bit.
Okay, property taxes.
Same thing.
Those are not going down to my, no, hold on, let me look. I have the wrong thing.
Yeah, I think our projected is down 114,000. Yeah.
So I think that's been there.
Not a significant number. I just was curious if the rate went down or there was some.
Right, no, it's just as we're looking, we anticipate a certain dollar amount based on historical
Yeah.
payments between now and the end of the year, and we're just shoring up
Just-
those numbers to verify, so that's all it is.
All right, another information item is new board policy 5400, Associated Students Organization, which is a first reading. And thank you, Rochelle, for all of the background and the way that you set up the Google Doc to be able to hit the hyperlinks and to see the summary was really exceptional. So I want to compliment you and Randy on that.
Not me.
All right, so this is the first reading of Board Policy 5400. Are there any comments or questions about that? Seeing none, we'll move on to Board Policy 5420, Associated Student Finance. Any questions or comments? Continuous review cycle. This is the full chapter 1 and 2, which is a lot of information, great summaries. Any questions for Rochelle? Revised Board Policy 2345, public participation at Board of Education meetings. Questions or comments? Letter F, revised administrative procedure 2345 on that same board policy. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Letter G, revised board policy 2410, board policies and administrative procedures, first reading. No comments or questions. Then H, revised administrative procedure 2410 on that same policy. No comments. I, participation in local decision-making, board policy 2510. All right, J, revised board policy 2710, conflict of interest. I don't see any comments or hear of them. K is revised board policy 2745, board self-evaluation, first reading. Any comments or questions? All right, and then letter L, revised administrative procedure on board self-evaluation. Any thoughts about that? Great, and I thought that was really well done. Again, it conforms to the due practice that we've sort of started, so thank you.
Can I speak to, since we're recording
Yes.
and somebody may choose to just watch this later at night. I know it'll become messy TV. So what we did here, and I think we'd like to get a little bit of feedback from you on is, as a reminder, as part of our accreditation process, we've committed to reviewing on a schedule certain chapters. And as chance would have it, strategy would have it. Chapters 1 and 2, which are the policies the board primarily owns, were the first on the docket. But what we did here was made the effort to say the D and E are inclusive, or excuse me, D is inclusive of the chart here that has minimum. And then from E to L are the specific policies that were determined to have more substantive change, so they're called out independently. This is an approach that our modified policy committee came up with, and if you guys are comfortable with it in years to come, we will do it that way. And so, for example, what you saw on items B and C is the typical, oh, this policy is up for individually, needs to be reviewed for a reason or another. But the ones that come on schedule, we will, for the sake of both transparency and efficiency, bring the chapter and with the notes like this, and then those with substantive change have independently. Would that work for you?
I really liked it. I found it to be super helpful to have that chart. Just kind of, I could skim through and go, logo. Don't need to spend a lot of time on that, but okay, these I need to dive in a little deeper.
Yes, lots of heads nodding.
Great job.
Yes, so
And I want to also say, Gary, thank you for helping to draft our self-evaluation.
thank you.
Memorializes what we've been doing, and I just want you to know I appreciate it.
It was something I worked on alone and submitted it, and this is the opportunity for us to talk about it. So I think it
I added a page
perfect.
earlier before this as well.
All right, then, moving on then to the action items. And without objection, it would be preferable for me to have us move each of these with a motion, and then we could have a second, and then we could discuss them.
Sure.
So
I move we approve revised board policy BP 3230, protection of human subjects.
Second.
been moved and seconded to approve BP 3230. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. And
I move we approve new board policy BP 3240, data governance.
Second.
been moved and seconded to approve board policy 3240. Any discussion on the motion? Roger?
I just got a dumb question here. I'll admit I'm kind of a Luddite when it comes to talking about, there's just some terminology that I don't understand. Single source version of truth. Does that mean there are multiple versions of truth?
I'm gonna let Esam answer how.
Because Eson broke out
This
into.
was I didn't, remember when he said all the easy questions go to me? But yeah.
Yeah, right.
See, he said it was a dumb one, so it gets to go to you.
The reference here is the fact that we have, I mean, in this day and age, we have multiple places where our data is kept. There is the main ERP, Genzabar. Then there is Blackboard, for example, which is our learning management system. You heard from Cass about PowerFace, where we keep our financial aid data. So we had to make a decision, which is kind of industry practice, that given we have so many places where information is, in the event that there is some discrepancy, which one governs? And so we have decided that Genzabar, which is our ERP, would be the governing one. So that becomes a single source of truth, along with any auxiliary systems that Genzabar may have for us.
So to answer your-
That makes total sense to me. It just bothered me to, particularly in this day and age, to have, this is, like I say, multiple versions of truth. Can you reword that somehow, or is that standard in your kind of work?
It has been fairly standard. The single source of truth, that phrase is fairly standard.
I'll go back to my cave. All right, thanks.
All right, any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. We're now at action item O.
Move that we approve board policy BP 4235, credit for prior learning.
Second.
And second, so the motion on the floor to approve board policy 4235. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. We're now at action item P.
Move to approve copier services contract with Canon Solutions.
Second.
There's been moved and seconded to approve the contract with Canon Solutions. Any discussion on the motion?
I've got one.
Go ahead.
It's so unusual to see that we're renewing a lease and it's gonna cost us less next year. I'm misreading this thing. The new monthly lease is lower than what we've been paying. Am I misreading that somehow? How did that happen?
Competition.
Competition, being part of the Omnia Partners Cooperative Contract.
So that's new that I thought we've been.
We have been, it's just the pricing that they have through this contract, they were able to reduce it. We are also have a few less copiers that we'll have on campus. I think it's 4 less copiers than we had before. But they were able to bring the price down.
Okay, I mean, we're still getting the same service. We're not having to walk across the street to make a copy, I assume. Okay, good, okay. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the contract with Canon Solutions signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, no. Aye. Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. We're now at action item Q. Elimination of renewal and replacement fund.
I move that we approve the elimination of the renewal and replacement fund.
Been moved and seconded to eliminate the elimination of the renewal and replacement fund. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. We're now at action item R, pursuit, development, and offering of applied baccalaureate degrees at Rowe Community College.
I move that we approve the pursuit, development, and offering of applied baccalaureate degrees at Rogue Community College. Okay.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the pursuit, development, and offering of applied baccalaureate degrees at Rowe Community College. Is there any comment or discussion on the motion? Andy?
I can make comment after the vote.
Gotcha. Any question, comment? All right, hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed, no. The abstentions. Motion carries unanimously.
Now that I say I'll make my comment after the vote. I probably should have made it before the vote. I don't know that, I don't know that it'll influence what intended to. But I want to be reflective on this one. This is, we're our transparent agenda at a pretty good pace. But what you just approved was RCC pursuing baccalaureate degrees. And I know you read the notes and you did that, but I want to make sure that for anybody following along. And we are in the process of pursuing our first. This is something that colleges have had the opportunity to do for a couple of years. We've sat back and said, we aren't going to do it until there's a specific need in our region to do so. So a couple colleges have preceded us on this. Our first kind of exploration was when we were looking at Bachelor of Science in Nursing, the BSN actually, which is a different degree. And after talking to industry partners, they shared with us that's less of a priority right now than more RNs. And that's part of how we got to the addition of our second RN cohort. But fast forward a point in time, and some of our industry partners have said, there's a need in teacher education to have more certified teachers in our region. And they've been asking us about this for a little while, and Juliet and a group of others have been exploring, would this BAS degree suffice for teacher education? It wasn't necessarily a natural fit, but they talked through it. They worked with the state association and it all made sense. And so a big part of what we're happening is most of us, probably all of us, are aware that our partners at SOU have a teacher education program, and it's a really good one. We also have a situation where we have a lot of people working in schools today who are unable to attend a face-to-face program, many of whom are attending online programs out of state. And this is specifically designed to provide an alternative who are unable to attend face-to-face programs. and who are working in programs, working in the industry, so that they can work and go to school, which has been a big part of a lot of our recent efforts. And so I just wanted to share with you that doing this will allow us to pursue, become a baccalaureate institution, and then we would bring different degrees forward, but this vote kind of only occurred once. And in the spirit of timely information, we actually received, feedback today. We had to submit a step in this process, and not surprisingly, it's a multi-step process to seek approval to do this. An early step is providing a statement of need to the HEC Higher Ed Coordinating Commission. That was submitted. We received on all ratings fully meets except for one, and that one received exceeds, and that was in the category of collaboration. And they appreciate the consortium model that the colleges are coming up with to deliver this, and the impact of students being able to work with other students in the state on this. So there are multiple schools approaching this effort together, but this is an example of when we hear of and see specific industries that need baccalaureate, that we're meeting an unmet need. That's when we would look to pursue it. And so there may be further questions, but kind of wanted to explain that and proceed.
Just one, Randy, you were talking about students being forced to do this process online. I assume that we're setting up a in-person.
I think there'll be a hybrid approach. I think a lot of the learning will be online. One of the biggest challenges with their current online options is they're out of state, and they have to take those out of state transcripts and bring them to our state certification. And it's a nightmare. It'd be challenging for them to take those out of state transcripts and get Oregon certification. This would be them earning the credentials in state, which removes a barrier to certification for them. It provides, what we'll see in our program is a lot of our local educators also doing some of the education on this, and there'll be more to share on this program as it progresses. Juliet's leading our efforts and will continue to do so, but hopefully that answers it, is that there will be.
It does. I'm just trying to get a feel for, what kind of infrastructure is it gonna take? Is it gonna take, a complete new staff of folks that are gonna be doing the education part and, a portion of our facilities dedicated to that? Do you have a number? I mean, are we gonna be doing 50 students at a time or 2?
Yeah, you want to answer some of that?
We're pretty early in the process. As far as facilities, the classes there's online, and anything that's in person with just regular classes going to require a facilities change. And then internships, their practicum will be done on site. So there is in person when they get to the point where they have to do their student teaching kinds of things. Those will be done not online. We don't know the numbers of students yet. We're still developing the curriculum. And then in the consortium model, there's the opportunity to share. So if we didn't offer a class, they could take it from another college. And so we're trying to work out how many students, how we can model it, how we can, goal is to create more entry points and more ways that students can move through. So if you didn't start in fall, you wouldn't have to wait a year to start. So how can we create models with our partners? And if we didn't have a full class, how can we share between different colleges? So there's some small schools in the consortium also that they are not going to have enough students for a full consortium. And so, or a full class. So using the consortium model, and that's we're still working on details on those pieces. There's multiple levels of approval. So this part, accreditation, we have to get approved by our accreditors to offer a bachelor's degree. So we're doing bachelor's degrees, accreditation for education, curriculum approvals, HEC approvals. So there's many pieces to get this.
It's not gonna happen next week.
It's not gonna happen next week. And there's waiting periods. So after this process, June 12th starts a 90-day waiting period. So we have to wait for multiple times through the process. There's some waiting.
So the goal is not next academic year, this coming academic year, starting in the fall then?
Fall of 2026 is an ambitious start date.
That's what I'm trying to get a handle.
Definitely not fall of 2025. Absolutely not.
Other comments or questions?
I'm super excited about this.
Yeah, I am too.
Been a long time coming in our.
Tremendous support from our K-12 partners.
And this it was predicated on the fact that the state law changed, permitting community colleges to award baccalaureate degrees. And this is part of the process that we have to then go through in order to be able to do that.
The majority of the degrees you would see offered at the baccalaureate level at a university would be a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science. And what we have permission to do is a Bachelor of Applied Science. So it's a very specific degree. And so only certain programs fit into that. And that's where if an education built into a BAS can lead to a certification kind of conversation came up. Because most of it would be the applied science programs we had. So let's say, let's just cross my fingers not. Let's say now to be a dental hygienist, you have to have a bachelor's degree. Well, we have an associate's of applied science in dental hygienist, but if they had to have a bachelor's, we would do that bachelor's of applied science. Same program, it's just higher level of learning. So that's typically what it's stacked up for.
Good. All right. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Juliet. Okay, continuing on the action items, we're now at letter S, President's Contract. So at the last board meeting, the board asked me to negotiate the contract for Randy's his successor contract, which rolls for another 3 years. Randy and I met a couple of weeks ago. I asked Randy for some data that would help me understand where other college presidents are in OCCA 17, so I could sort of sense that. It's sort of a wild distribution of salary and benefits. Randy is sort of right in the middle because we, in terms of size, we are just about middle of the pack. I looked at his requests. His increase is very similar to the increase he offered one or more of his own team. So it seemed very consistent. That was logical. There were two other requests, one in deferred comp that was a smaller increase that I thought was again reasonable, particularly when it was in context of what other college presidents earn around the state. And the final one was a very small change in travel that I thought was very reasonable. So I'm recommending to the board that we approve the contract as it's been presented. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. It also acknowledges the strong leadership that Randy has provided as the college president and rewards him with remuneration and benefits that are measured against the great work that he has done with the college. So I'm here to answer any questions or be available to you. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
Move that we accept the president's contract.
Second that.
Been moved and seconded to accept the president's contract. It's been presented. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, then I will call the question. Those in favor of approving the president's contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? The motion carries unanimously.
Randy, for your hard work.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, we have new business, item 9, and board nominating committee. So at the last meeting, we talked about the board sort of shifting into a different practice, particularly in line with the Office of Ethics and the issues around training with board meetings and making sure that we're consistent with what the law requires and not having, quote, a serial meeting. We wanted to be extra sensitive to that and also to be inclusive. So Randy had asked Rochelle if she would check around with other colleges in the state to find out, well, how do they go about this? And so there is a board nominating committee. And it typically has 2 members on it. And it seemed logical to us that we would ask the chair and the immediate past chair to be members of the committee. And that sort of saves the vice chair, the putting in that awkward position of nominating themselves for that spot. It also includes an interest inventory, sort of, where board members could say, well, I'd like to be on that committee. Or I'd like to entertain being the chair, or I'd like to do this on the board. And so we would collect that feedback. And the chair and vice chair would meet. And we would then, at the next meeting, which would occur I believe at the June meeting for the officers to take effect at the July meeting. We would do that, so we would be doing that between now and the June meeting. So this is sort of what the new business item is, and we also thought that it didn't necessarily need to be memorialized in a written policy, that it would be a practice similar to the one that we had before, which was an informal practice. But this seems cleaner and even somewhat more inclusive. So with that, I would offer that Marie and I, as the immediate past chair, and I meet as the nominating committee to come up with the new committee assignments and chair and vice chair, et cetera, for the next year.
Based on the interest survey that's gonna go out. to the
Correct,
board
based on the
members.
interest survey that would go out. So that would be sent out in the coming day or days.
Tomorrow or the next day.
And then Maria and I would see that, we would get together and offer the results for the next board meeting.
Or recruit if nobody.
Recruit, if
Everybody said not me.
Right, we recruit,
And now we're gonna recruit.
exactly.
So the name, Gary, of as nominating is essentially just nominating officers' positions, correct?
It
Is
would
that-
also,
And
well,
committee-
and committee
governance.
assignments,
Committees.
yes. It gives us a way to find out everyone's interest. And not necessarily, if you've done it always, you're always gonna be that. It's going to be a way that people can say, yeah, I'd like to do that. And
Some structure.
exactly, it gives some structure to what was a telephone call or other oral communication.
And you also described this is also a body that would address some of the governance issues around the ethics.
No, it's consistent,
Oh, okay,
it conforms
Okay.
with
gotcha.
the training around keeping these meetings open, similar to how we handled recent topics where you've sort of given me authority to work with Randy, for example. We're having this discussion in an open public setting. These are all things that are required and we're demonstrating best practice.
So that led to the thought process of
Correct.
creation of
Exactly.
this
That
thing.
led to us,
Okay.
well, let's not stop there. Let's continue to try to be a model and do things as a best practice.
So this committee would meet solely for committee assignments and leadership. roles.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
The,
Not other governance
Correct.
issues. Okay.
there will be one or two follow-up questions now that the committee's decided before the survey goes out. Like, one of the things that's on there as a, could be good for moving the agenda forward is the liaisons also.
Yes,
So it has the officers, the committees, and the liaisons.
yes.
A preference for them. This came from a borrowed approach from another institution where the person in Rochelle's role said the chair greatly appreciated or doing this by not having to reach out to every board member and do this, that a compiled list made the process for both Rochelle's position and the nominating committee much more efficient.
I think it's nice too, because people won't feel really on the spot.
Correct.
That'll give
yes.
time to have some thoughtful.
Yep.
Ideas around what we're interested in and what we might like to pursue in the future.
Exactly.
The message that will go out will include as a reminder, this is the responsibility of the role. So it's not just clicking these things, it's like the body of the message will say, this is what signing up for this might include.
Yeah.
Because there are descriptions, there are board
Yes.
committee
Yeah.
descriptions, right? Okay,
I like the process.
all right, so
Do
we
you
will,
need to
we will meet and come up with board officers and assignments for the next board meeting and
The question I think that you had is this something we need to vote on as a board? Process, is that what I heard you say?
do we need to
Or do
vote?
we just need to come to consensus and just kind of say like,
We're forming this committee.
Yeah. Now that we're in an open session, if you're okay with this being a consensus of the board, it's gonna be in the minutes of the meeting, I'm okay, unless the board wishes to have a motion and formalize it more.
Yeah, I'll just point out the board policy doesn't require this to be an action. I think the board policy says that the chair will take on this, and so this is a developed strategy by the chair. So it doesn't require action, it's just, it's kind of formalizing.
A new-
chair's
The
gonna-
chair
the
would
way the
be
chair's gonna
this
do it.
year and in subsequent years.
We do have a policy that names the committees, so we'll have to go back to that. And adjust that.
Yes. Well, and it has that, so what you'll be signing up for is consistent with the policy, with the committees and the assignments in that policy.
Gotcha.
So there's one or two, I think, that are inactive, that if it were to be reactive, because it's in the policy.
Right.
If it's reactivated, I'd have interest in this.
All right, so it sounds like it's a consensus that we don't need to vote on, and we look for
See
the.
how
email.
this pilot program.
Yes,
goes this year.
exactly, we will. All right. All right, that was item 9. Now we're moving on to old business. There is no old business. And the next section is the executive session. So we are now going to adjourn the regular meeting of the community of Rowe Community College, May 20 meeting. We're going to adjourn the meeting. We'll ask everyone to leave the room. When we return into open session, we don't expect there to be any action following. There'll be no further action unless I'm correct. Or any intended action following board action? There is no.
Adjourn the meeting. It's only-
Just board. All right, so we are now adjourned at 6:06. All right, we are back in our open session. We've returned from executive session of ORS 192.660, sub 2, sub D labor negotiations. We're now back in open session at the round table. So I will ask if anyone would like to share before we adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'd like to share, I went to honors night, and it was lovely. I got to sit, I was in the back and I'm watching this beautiful, incredibly diverse, young, all ages, all, various nationalities, different languages spoken. And not just in terms of the students, but the staff too. It was very lovely and incredibly accomplished student. You all do an amazing job.
We had a mom secretly fly in from St. Louis to surprise her daughter and and yeah.
Oh, that's been a wonderful joy to see. Nice.
I'll share, it's the season of graduation, so I was at, I went to Provo, Utah, one of my sons graduated from law school there. And then I was in Newburgh, my youngest graduated from George Fox, and looking forward to more graduations coming up. It's a fun time. Moving on to just life,
Thank you. Anyone else like to share? All right, well, I'm happy to be back from a little vacation in Dillon Beach, which is on the California coast, and it was quite lovely, beautiful weather, and happy to be back. So with that, we will then adjourn.
Yeah, well, some of us have some massive watch parties to go to.
That's true.
But today's.
Yes, and I think early returns will be at what, 8:01 something? 8:01.
Whatever.
We are wishing all good wishes. All right, anything else for the good of the order?
Good luck, Roger.
Yeah.
Roger and Maria and Pat and Vanessa. All right, we'll adjourn this regular meeting of the Rowe Community College Board of Education, May 20 at 6:48.
Thank you.
Medicine watch.